Terminator was an idea that I had when I was in Rome. I was just sitting around basically in my hotel room. I was in fact sick at the time. I had real high fever. And I just laying on the bed thinking and came up with all this bizarre imagery. And I think also the idea that, you know, because I was in a foreign city by myself and I felt very sort of dissociated from humanity in general, it was very easy to project myself into these two characters from the future who were out of sync, out of time, out of place, you know, that sort of thing. I'd always wanted to do some sort of really definitive robot story because it really, you know, had really never been done. What did you think when you first got the script for T1? I mean, because they wanted you to read for the other guy, right? So you read it thinking about the other guy, or, you know, about Reese? Do you remember what you were thinking when you read it?
The more I read the script, the more I remember I got fascinated by the Terminator.
Bad guy.
The bad guy,
right.
Which I thought was the real cool guy.
Your clothes. Give them to me.
What he loved was the story, and what he especially loved was everything that Terminator did.
We were talking about along the lines of me playing the heroic character.
Right, because that's what I thought you were coming in for. And the funny thing was, when I went to that lunch, I didn't see that as, you know, in the back of my mind, I was thinking the Terminator, you were thinking the Terminator, but we sit and we have this polite lunch because we've never met each other, and neither one of us mentions it, right? And then we both go back to our guys and say, Terminator, you know.
You then did something really smart. You sent over to my office your painting that you did of Terminator.
Right.
You impressed actually with my face on it.
Right.
And with the holding the 45 or like this across the chin like this. And I looked at this painting and I said, I am the Terminator. I'm gonna make this call now.
Right.
And I called Lou, my agent, right away, and I called you and I said, I want to play the Terminator.
Yeah.
And then the deal was made.
What changed was that the original concept as written, and the script didn't change at all, not a single line of dialogue was changed, but the visual concept was that the Terminator was this anonymous character who could walk out of a crowd, just one face in the crowd, could walk up and kill you for no apparent reason except for what your life would mean in some future time. And that concept changed because Arnold doesn't vanish into a crowd. It took on a slightly more hyperbolic visual style. It was a little larger than life. It still played sort of realistically, but it became more nightmarish, and you always knew he wasn't quite human. Obviously, in order to get the intensity on the face to make you a killer, there's a fine line with having you be completely blank. So, you know, there was some sense of emotion isn't really the right word, but intention, I think. The fact that you were a killer, I don't want to say predator, but a predatory creature in a way, and very focused on your goal.
Sarah Connor?
Yes?
We really narrowed it down to just if this would be a robot, what movement would there be going on? And it would literally only be the arm coming across, pulling out, cocking, shooting. No shoulder movement, no head movement. Goes back, and then the whole body would turn and walk away.
But with a smoothness too.
Oh yeah,
it was like very positive and very smooth. Not jerky either, because jerkiness wastes energy. It was like the ultimate efficiency, you know, to get, you know, the shortest path between 2 points. What I found to be effective, certainly on Terminator, was to do a slow motion build-up, or to subtly segue into slow motion where you almost don't realize it, and it becomes almost a dreamlike pace, or that dilation of time that you experience when you're in a traffic accident and it's happening and you can't stop it, and time seems to stretch. For me, the fun in that scene was the build-up. The latent tension of what is going to happen, knowing that one guy's armed, the other guy's armed, they're lurking around through the crowd, so all hell's going to break loose.
Come with me if you want to live.
Remember the first day we shot the scene where you're driving through the parking garage in the police car that you've stolen, and you're looking for them. And on that first day we got together and we talked a little bit, and we worked out some physical behavior like a shark, you know, kind of the way it moves back and forth looking for prey. And then you came up with the idea of moving your eyes, then moving your head to follow the eyes, then moving the eyes back and moving the head back. So it became almost like a surveillance camera. And the funny thing was, it didn't really get real to me until the next morning in dailies. And I saw that close-up and I went, this is working great.
Yeah.
That nobody has ever seen this before.
I'll be back.
When writing I'll Be Back, I didn't think that that line would play funny at all, because you almost have to see the movie to know that he's coming through the door with the car. I figured that that would be a line for people who were seeing the film again, which obviously Terminator is one of those movies that people see over and over, so it works like that. But you know what? It worked even when people hadn't seen the movie before, because they could just guess what your version of coming back was going to be. You know what I mean? By that point, they were in sync with the picture, and the picture was working. In the first picture, you were so enthusiastic about the character and about the work. I mean, as you are in all your films, but I hadn't worked with you before, so I wasn't ready for this. That you just jumped in. I mean, there was stuff where we had you tied to the top of a car, holding on while the car raced backward down the alley with your arm on fire.
I think the worst moments were not really when I had to do something physically, like, you know, running through a window, or falling through a window, or landing on glass, or something like that, or being on top of a car. It was more the acid that was poured on me to make me smoke, to make the character smoke. I remember.
That's true. We did pour acid on you.
I kept saying, is there no other way?
Mild acid. It's a very mild acid.
Yeah, very mild. Is there no way that we can just put some smoke in there somewhere in the clothes that I can smoke, rather than having acid being poured on? With fire and acid and those kind of things, you never know.
Well, you know when that stuff starts to get around the face.
Exactly, too much, or in the eyes. You know, it burns a little bit.
I think that there was one major decision that was made that everything else sort of devolved from, which was made jointly between myself and Stan Winston when I approached him to do the you know, the makeup and prosthetic effects on the film. And that decision was to not do a man in a suit. We had to sell the idea that this was the suit that was inside the man.
All I remember was that I walked into Stan Winston's office,
right,
his building where he designed all the everything, you know, the Terminator look. After you got through prepping him what it should look like and all this, and he started making drawings and the makeup and design, all this stuff. I remember walking in one time and he said to me, "This is what you're going to look like." And I looked at this, and I did not think it was humanly possible to create this kind of a makeup. With the cheekbones
sticking out.
I mean, there was mechanism underneath.
Yeah.
The hydraulic mechanism underneath the cheeks.
Right.
And when the meat is ripped off, when the teeth are sticking out on the side, when the mouth is gone, when the artificial eye, I mean, that lens is exposed and lights up red and all this stuff. When I saw that, I said to myself, that's impossible to do. And he looked at me, and when I told him that, he said to me, "It's possible, Arnold, but it would take hours and hours and hours and a lot of your patience."
Get out.
I tried to structure a script in such a way that it was not too highfalutin budget-wise. The executive producer begged us to write more of the scenes as daytime because of the perceived cost difference. But you know, I plunged madly on. It seemed so important stylistically to keep the film a night film as much as possible, and so we kept it that way. And I don't think it really impacted the cost all that much.
The first one was really a struggle, especially when it came to make it, like you said, because there wasn't that much time available and that much money available.
Right, exactly. In fact,
probably toward the end, we didn't even have anybody to put it on. It was, here, Arnold, put this on.
I know. We were going out on our own, shooting quickly a scene. You remember punching into the window?
We went out and stole shots. At the end, remember, we got a crew of like 3 people together and went out and did some close-ups of you.
You held the camera.
Yeah.
I had to put the special thing on it and take on my gloves, put my clothes on. There was no one from wardrobe there.
Right.
I had my clothes in the back in the trunk of the car, pulled it out, I put on the jacket of Terminator, and you said quickly before the police comes, walk across the street and just punch in the window. And then I say, okay, we're looking left and right. I put on the glove quickly, you know, and I put the gray jacket on and all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
And then you said you went like this, and it was standing there with the camera behind the car.
Right.
I went over there, boom.
Yeah.
You know, says, okay, let's move on to the next location. This worked.
What was funny is that all of that, you know, kind of scrambling around to do that, it didn't occur to you to ask me, what do you mean punch in the window?
I know.
What do you mean punch in a glass window?
Exactly.
It's just like, do it,
yeah.
you know?
You still don't get it, do you? He'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does.
And the other thing that's real important to me in a film is subjectivity, getting the audience to see what's happening the way the character sees it, as opposed to the way it's sort of sitting outside. And I like to try to, you know, force you to see it and feel it more the way they do within the frame. You can't step in there with them, but you know, hopefully the next best thing. It was primarily an aesthetic decision in the writing, which was to show these nightmarish glimpses as they were perceived subjectively by this character, Reese, and then to take that and juxtapose it back and forth with you know, Sarah Connor and her sort of very normal, almost mundane life.
When you were casting, especially the female lead, which then became Linda Hamilton's part, I remember you were very interested in finding someone that fits a certain specification, a certain woman, and I think that's interesting. You were telling me that what you were looking for.
Are you saying it's from the future?
One possible future.
Then you're from the future too, is that right?
Right.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that we cast Linda and she was right for the first picture, and she wasn't she had to have some strength, but when you first saw her, she had to seem to be kind of an everyday person and vulnerable, and the kind of person who was really almost a victim in a way.
Right.
And at the end, that strength emerges.
Move it, Reese! On your feet, soldier! On your feet!
First, she was this soft, nice, feminine girl that was working there in this restaurant.
Right.
And, you know, just having a great time, being one of those young girls that was out there having a good time. And then, as she became the victim, and as time went on and she realized what her mission was, she became harder and harder.
Exactly.
And in the end, she was really tough. You really got the feeling this woman has changed, and she's ready to take on this challenge.
You're terminated.
Michael Biehn obviously did a fabulous job with Reese. There is a funny anecdote there, which is that Michael came in to read for us, and he gave the best reading of any of the actors that we'd seen, but it was with a Southern accent, we talked to his agent, very politely said, you know, Michael's very good, but we really don't want him to seem so specific that he comes from the South, because he's from the future. We don't want it to be that specific. And the agent said, what accent? He doesn't have a Southern accent. It turned out that he'd been reading for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof the morning, that morning of the reading, and he hadn't shaken the accent.
Sarah.
No.
Run!
So he gave another great reading minus the accent, and that's when we cast him.
I came across time for you, Sarah. I love you. I always have.
I always felt that this was more than the ordinary action film.
Right.
And it was more than a special effects film, and or like what some thought was just a B movie, and that it is only appealing to the kids between 14 and 18. This is not to be looked at as just a limited audience, a movie for limited audience, but in fact, I think the story is so solid and so good, and has so many interesting messages there, and it is also entertaining, and so that it would have a broad appeal. That it would have an appeal for the women. It would have something for the older folks. It was just something that had something in there for everyone, and I think because of that, there was. After the movie was gone from the theaters, then when it came on television, it was 10 times as big, the ratings and how many people saw it. And then when the video came out, it was like a mushrooming effect there. And I think that's what eventually led to the belief that we must do a second Terminator.
It's funny that every year that went by that we didn't make the sequel, the demand for the sequel got greater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why you and we got together periodically and started working on a plan and mapping out times to keep a certain time period blocked out so we can go and eventually down the line.
Actually, you'd call me up about once every 6 months and say, so how's it going on? No, you'd talk about other things for about 5 minutes and then, so how's Terminator 2 going?
That's right, yeah. So I mean, anyway, so that was, we were fortunate enough that it did come together and that we did make a second Terminator.
Allá, viene una tormenta.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming in.
I know.
Terminator 1 was like a hallucination for me. I was making my first picture. I had no idea it was really going to be a success. I mean, when I wrote it, I probably thought it stood the chance of being a success. I wrote it that way on purpose, you know, but you never really believe that it's going to happen or that it can happen. And so everything after that was like a dream for me for a while. And then I realized, yes, it did happen. This really did find its audience. And it gave me a lot of courage as a filmmaker to go on and do other stuff.
I felt right from the beginning when I read the script and when I had my meeting with Jim Cameron that it was a winner. I felt it all the way through the shooting of the movie. Every time we prepared for a stunt, every time we did a scene, I was more and more convinced that we had a winner in our hands. And then when Jim showed me, after the shooting was completed, he showed to me some of the edited footage. And when I saw that, it was so intense and it was so well done that I just couldn't get enough of it. And it was really one of the first times that I could see rough cuts of a film and wanted to see more and more of it. So I believed all along that it's going to go through the roof. I was hoping and praying that the studio would believe the same thing and would support it 100%. And so I knew I was sitting on a gold mine.